All right, so get this, thousands of cybersecurity articles come out every week.
It's true.
And, I mean, even WE can't keep up with all that.
Right.
So for this deep dive, we're time traveling
Okay.
back to September 16th, 2024,
All right.
to see what was making headlines on tsecurity.de, which is a German IT security portal.
Yeah, a single day can tell you a lot about, like, what's keeping security experts up at night, you know? What are the biggest threats they're seeing? And honestly, even how cybersecurity is viewed differently around the world, depending on where you are.
Totally. So we're kind of like peeking into the minds of German security pros.
Exactly.
And just browsing the tsecurity.de website, I've got to say, it's an experience.
Well, it's interesting how they've structured it, right? You immediately get a sense of what their priorities are. So you've got your usual suspects like firewall, VPN. Those are universal. Everyone's thinking about those.
Sure.
But then they have things like intrusion detection,
Ooh, getting fancy.
endpoint detection and response. Not exactly things most people are like chatting about at the dinner table.
You're telling me I could barely set up my own Wi-Fi router. I'm not building an intrusion detection system anytime soon.
Right, but it's not about, being super tech savvy. I think the bigger point is awareness,
No.
In fact, one of their top searches right there on the site is security awareness, right alongside firewall configuration and password security.
So it's like they're saying, look, we know not everyone's a cybersecurity expert,
Right.
but here's what you, as just a normal person online, need to know to protect yourself.
Precisely. And that focus on kind of user education.
Yeah. That's something I find really interesting about the site. It's not just about, here's the latest security software you need to buy. It's about actually trying to empower people to be smarter online.
Right. Because so much of our lives are online these days.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another section that I found interesting, which is their cyber threats section. And what's fascinating here is how prominently they list social engineering.
Okay, for our listeners who don't know, social engineering, it's kind of a fancy way of saying tricking people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not hacking code, it's hacking like human psychology.
Exactly. So think phishing emails,
Yeah.
fake websites that are designed to steal your passwords, things like that.
Ugh, the worst.
Yeah. And it's a good reminder that security at its core isn't just about the technology. It's about us. It's about people and the decisions that we're making online. Totally. So even just from the way this website's organized, we're already getting a sense of what's on the minds of like German security folks, right? But let's get to the good stuff.
Let's do it.
Let's talk headlines.
All right.
Headlines from September 16th, 2024.
So on September 16th, 2024, there was one headline that immediately grabbed my attention, and this one actually had implications far beyond just Germany. And it was, Ivanti cloud bug goes under exploit after alarms are raised.
That sounds serious.
It was.
Okay.
So Ivanti, they're a company that provides IT management software. Like, companies all over the world use their stuff.
Okay.
And what's concerning here is that this particular bug was exploited even after alarms were raised about it.
So even when people knew there was a problem, they couldn't, fix it fast enough.
It's a little unnerving.
It is a little unnerving, yeah.
Yeah. And what it highlights is that vulnerabilities aren't just these theoretical risks, right? They have very real-world consequences.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a glitch in the system. It had the potential to, really disrupt businesses on a global scale.
Okay. I'm officially starting to sweat a little bit.
Yeah.
But, this brings up a good point. What can people listening actually do to protect themselves?
Yeah.
Because most people listening aren't managing, global IT infrastructure.
Sure.
So how does this relate to, me and my laptop,
That's a great question, and it actually has a very simple answer. Keep your software updated.
Yes.
Those annoying little pop-ups that tell you to update your phone, update your apps, update your computer. It's not just about getting the latest and greatest features. They often include really important security patches that are specifically designed to fix vulnerabilities just like this Ivanti bug.
So lesson 1 from our German cybersecurity adventure.
Yes.
Don't ignore those update reminders.
Exactly. Those updates are like the security system for your digital life.
I like it. Okay, so we've got to keep our software updated. What else?
And speaking of digital life, this takes us to our next headline, which has a very German twist to it.
Okay.
Kleinanzeigen.de hacker gives away current database.
Okay, first of all, for our listeners who might not know, Kleinanzeigen.de, it's like the German Craigslist.
Exactly. Massive website.
Huge. So someone hacked them and then just gave their database away.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Well, that's a fascinating question, and I think it underscores how often cybersecurity bumps up against ethical and legal considerations.
Yeah.
And, because this happened in Germany,
Right.
there are some immediate implications, because Germany actually has very strict data protection laws.
Oh, yeah. They take data privacy very seriously over there.
Very seriously. Similar to GDPR, but even more robust. So this hacker, were they trying to, expose flaws in the company's security? Was that their goal?
Right.
It's possible, right. By making that database public, it forces the company and, frankly, the public to confront these potential vulnerabilities.
Right.
But at the same time, it does beg the question, is it ethical to do that?
Yeah.
And what are the legal ramifications of an act like that?
Totally. Because even if you're trying to do good by exposing a flaw, you could be harming a lot of people whose data was caught up in that.
Absolutely. And this particular headline, because it happened in Germany, would likely involve actual investigations under their data protection laws.
That's a good point. This wasn't just a technical breach. This had potential legal and ethical fallout. And that's all because of where it happened. The context really matters.
Context is everything in cybersecurity.
Uh-huh.
It's a reminder that, again, it's not just about the ones and zeros, right? It's about people, it's about laws, and this complex kind of interplay between all these different factors.
Okay, this next headline from tsecurity.de is a little less, intense, I think, thankfully. But it's still relevant, I think, to anyone who's ever, messed up their computer.
Yeah.
Deleted swap partition, and now Fedora won't boot up.
Oh, yeah, the classic tale of user error.
The classic.
So in this case, someone accidentally deleted a critical part of their Linux operating system.
Okay. And for those of us who don't speak fluent Linux, what does that mean? Is that deleting your hard drive?
It's not quite that drastic, but it's a good way to think about it. Imagine losing the storage on your phone, all at once, all your photos, your apps, everything gone.
Ouch.
That's kind of what this person experienced.
So even if it's not a malicious attack or anything, it still shows how even small mistakes can have huge consequences when you're talking about computers.
Totally. And it just underscores how important, honestly, basic computer literacy is becoming for everyone. You know, you don't need to be a programmer or anything, but just understanding kind of at a high level how your operating system works can save you a lot of headaches.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
I one time accidentally deleted a system file off my computer because I thought it was a spam attachment.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I learned my lesson the hard way.
We've all been there. But those lessons, as frustrating as they can be in the moment, they're valuable.
Right.
They teach us to be more cautious, more aware of the potential consequences of what we're doing in the digital world.
Very true. Okay, so 3 headlines in, and we're already seeing some trends here, importance of staying updated. We've got the human element, right?
Yeah.
User error.
Mm-hmm.
And the need for, even if it's basic computer knowledge.
You got it.
Okay, good.
And it just goes to show, you don't need to be some kind of tech whiz to understand these things, right? Cybersecurity is really for everyone.
Cybersecurity is for everyone. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that we all have a role to play, I guess, in making the internet a safer place.
Exactly.
Although I got to say, looking at these headlines, it's easy to get a little overwhelmed.
Sure.
It feels like a lot,
It's a constant barrage. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So for our listener who's maybe feeling a little anxious right now, what are our key takeaways from these headlines? What can they do to protect themselves?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And the good news is there are some very simple, practical things that anyone can do.
Okay, good.
And we've touched on the first one already. Keep your software updated.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, those updates are not just about, like I said, new emojis and fancy features.
Right.
A lot of times they're patching security holes that could be exploited.
Exactly. Okay, got it. Software updates, check. What else?
Well, remember that Kleinanzeigen.de headline.
Yeah.
That's a prime example of why you really need to be aware of those social engineering tactics.
Yes.
Because, again, it's not always about brute forcing your way into a system, right? It's about tricking people into handing over the keys, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So be wary of any suspicious emails, links, messages that are asking for your personal information.
So if something feels off,
trust your gut.
Trust your gut. Don't click it.
Absolutely. And honestly, look for telltale signs of phishing.
Yeah.
Misspellings, weird URLs, requests for information that you wouldn't normally share. If it sounds too good to be true,
It probably is.
It probably is.
Right.
And that applies just as much in the digital world as it does in the real world.
Totally.
And then another one to keep in mind, especially in light of that Avanti bug, is strong, unique passwords.
Okay, but who can remember a million different passwords?
That's where a password manager comes in.
I see.
It's like having a secure vault, basically, for all your passwords. And you only need to remember one master password to get in.
That's a really good idea. I've been meaning to set one of those up.
It's honestly one of the best things you can do for your online security these days.
Okay, so we've got software updates, we've got social engineering awareness, we've got strong passwords, password managers. Anything else people should be thinking about?
Well, this is where things get even more interesting.
You were saying things were going to get interesting, and I'm always up for a good cliffhanger. What other cybersecurity, like gems, did you dig up on this trip to tsecurity.de?
Well, we've talked about a lot of specific threats and what people can do to protect themselves.
Right.
But this next part is really about kind of the bigger picture.
Okay.
And it's something that's been on the minds of security experts for a while now, which is this: the rise of AI.
Oh, AI, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
it's everywhere these days, so no surprise it's shaking things up in the cybersecurity world, too.
Absolutely. And, just like any tool, a powerful tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
True.
On the one hand, AI is a total game changer for defenders. It can analyze massive amounts of data, like way more than a human ever could, to detect threats in real time. It can spot patterns that we might miss, and it can even predict future attacks before they happen.
So it's like having a super-powered security guard that never sleeps.
Yeah, you could say that. But here's the catch.
Uh-oh.
The bad guys, they have access to AI too.
Right.
They can use it to create way more sophisticated attacks, to get around our traditional security measures, and honestly to launch campaigns at a scale that we've never seen before.
Okay, I'm officially feeling like I'm in a sci-fi movie now. Like it's a digital arms race, right?
It really is.
With AI on both sides.
And that's why we can't afford to get complacent, right?
Right.
As AI gets more powerful, our defenses, they have to evolve too.
Okay, so what does that even mean for the average person? I can barely handle software updates, and now I got to worry about AI too.
Right, and I hear you, it sounds overwhelming, but honestly,
Yeah.
a lot of the things we already talked about, staying updated, being wary of social engineering, using strong passwords, that stuff is still relevant in the age of AI.
So the basics still matter. Okay, that's good. That's reassuring.
They absolutely do, but I'd say it's also about just staying informed, right?
Right.
Keep learning about what the new threats are, pay attention to how AI is being used, the good ways and the bad ways, and don't be afraid to ask questions,
Yeah, I'm just powered, right? The more you know. Speaking of knowledge, we've been really deep in the technical weeds here, but we haven't talked that much about the German perspective on all this.
Oh, right.
You mentioned earlier they had kind of a unique flavor to the way they approach cybersecurity.
Totally. It goes beyond just having a nice website. You see it in the headlines we talked about. Their focus on data privacy, even the tone of the articles, It's clear that Germany, they take a very proactive and structured approach to cybersecurity.
Proactive and structured. That sounds very German.
Right. And you see this reflected in their laws, in their regulations, even just their cybersecurity awareness campaigns. They tend to emphasize risk management, prevention, as
Yeah.
opposed to just reacting to the latest, crisis.
So less about putting out fires and more about building fireproof houses in the first place.
Exactly. And while no system is perfect, I think there's a lot we can all learn from their emphasis on building a strong foundation and having that kind of long-term view.
Totally. I love that we took this deep dive into not just the technical stuff, but also the cultural and legal influences,
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that cybersecurity, it's not just about ones and zeros.
Nope.
It's about people. It's about values. It's about this fascinating interplay between technology and honestly, society as a whole.
Well said.
Well, as much as I would love to stay lost in this cybersecurity rabbit hole all day, we are coming up on time.
Right.
So for our listeners who are ready to emerge from this deep dive, what's the one big takeaway? What's the thing you want them to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. It's not just on governments or corporations or tech geniuses, right? It's on each and every one of us taking steps to protect ourselves and our data.
I love that. That's empowering. It means we're not just passive victims here. We have agency, we have choices we can make every single day to be more secure online.
Exactly. And all those little choices, they really do add up. Think of it like this. If everyone just took a few simple steps to like up their cybersecurity game, it would have this ripple effect, right?
I like that.
Across the entire digital world.
A ripple effect of security. And it starts with each of us.
Mhm.
Wow, it's a powerful reminder that, yeah, even our small actions can make a difference.
I love that. And as we kind of wrap up this deep dive into tsecurity.de, I hope it's inspired our listeners to not just be aware of cybersecurity, but to feel, like you said, empowered to take action and be a part of the solution.
Yes, 100%. So until next time, everyone, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.